Thanks, Paul. In preparing for this evening, I was feeling okay. And then in the week, I did have one of those anxiety dreams where this was happening and I'd forgotten my notes, and I was also looked down to see I was wearing my slippers. So thankfully, that's not happened because I have my notes here and I am wearing shoes. So tonight we are continuing the series based on Alan Scott's book Scattered Servants, and the theme this evening is Dreams That Shape the City. So I'm going to start with a quote from the book. "We are made to be dreamers and visionaries. Kingdom culture is full of dreamers. It is the overspill of the Spirit in our lives. The Spirit of wisdom, revelation, releases dreams all over the city. So whenever God wants to change a city, he summons dreamers." So God has made us dreamers. He has placed dreams in our hearts. Dreams that will bring life to our families, our friends, and our city. Dreams that will bring hope to our communities. And these are dreams that God has placed inside us and wants to bring life to. Who feels inspired by that? And yet, how many of us have big dreams? And if we do, what are we doing with them? When reading this chapter on dreams for the city, I felt greatly challenged. I used to have big dreams when I was a teenager about having a fairer world. And I wrote lots of letters to my local MP about third world debt particularly. And during school, seriously thought about trying to become a lawyer or an MP so I could influence decisions that would benefit the poor and vulnerable. And I remember sharing this with a teacher who pitted my idealistic view on politics and the law and the belief that I could make a difference. And so without realising it, over time, it was easier just to reset my dreams to more realistic goals. And this was really brought home to me a couple of years or so ago when I bought something called a passion planner. And this is like a diary, but it's bigger as it gets you to think about your dreams or passions for the future and encourages you to break them down into small practical steps so you can start to see them being fulfilled. Now, there were a few of us that had each bought one of these, and we decided to meet up to share what we'd written as our dreams and goals and to encourage each other. And this is when I realised how small my dreams had become. So when sharing the dreams she had written down, Francesca, who many of you know and love, shared some big dreams. And one that still stands out to me was her dream of seeing the end of exploitation in Southampton and beyond. And when I looked down and see what I had written, one of my biggest goals was to try and do 10,000 steps a day. And that is when I realised I needed to dream bigger. So this got me to thinking, why is it hard to have big dreams? And I think part of the reason is the way our culture views dreamers. When I googled the definition of being a dreamer, the results weren't very encouraging. So the Cambridge Dictionary calls a dreamer a person who spends a lot of time thinking about or planning events that are not likely to happen. And the Macmillan Dictionary calls a dreamer someone who has a lot of ideas but not very sensible ones. And I think this negative view can affect the way we view dreams and dreaming, that our dreams will only ever be just that, dreams, pie-in-the-sky ideas unlikely to ever happen. And we can be worried that when we voice the dreams we have, that others will look at us as naive or idealistic, that we're not in the real world. And so we find ourselves reducing our dreams and expectations to ideas that are realistic and achievable. And this is what Alan Scott calls covetous dreams, where we reach for what has been instead of what could be, where we settle for repeating history instead of rewriting history. He says, covetous dreams have zero potential to awaken cities as they reduce our capacity to the scale of what already exists. But God has something bigger for us than this. He wants us to have courageous dreams, refusing to settle for a little more of what everyone else has, but instead pressing on to introduce new ideas. And if I start a sentence with the phrase, I have a dream, many here will think of Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King was an American Christian minister who became a spokesperson and leader for the civil rights movement. And this was a movement to enforce the same constitutional and legal rights for African Americans that white Americans already enjoyed. Inspired by his Christian beliefs, Martin Luther King advanced civil rights through non-violence. And it was in 1963, during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, that he delivered his now famous I Have a Dream speech, where he shared his dream of a future where all people would be free and equal, regardless of their colour or race. He wasn't limited by the reality of the culture around him, but instead had a courageous dream, a dream that there could be a better future where everyone is equal. Joel 2, verse 28 says, "Then after doing all those things, I will pour out my spirit upon all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions." As believers, we are encouraged to dream over our city. God loves our city, and he has big plans for it, which he wants us to be a part of. And it is the Holy Spirit in us that brings to life the dreams God has placed within us, dreams that are bigger than ourselves, that will bring life and hope to our communities. And the declaration on my left there, your right, hanging on the wall, is a great example of what this could look like. And these words paint a picture of our city, a city touched by God's presence, a shelter for the refugee and stranger, old and young safe on the streets, the lonely placed in families, a faithful city loving truth and justice and known for peace and prosperity. I mean, what a great dream. In the book, there is an example of a couple called Dave and Emily who had a dream of creating a space in their community where the lonely could get together and where their passion for coffee and good food could flourish. So they set up a cafe called Lost and Found, and they deliberately put it in one of the poorer areas of their community. And on their website, it says, Lost and Found started as a dream between four friends who wanted to see craft, care and community come to life on the North Coast. The idea of a warm, welcoming space that served amazing coffee and classic well-cooked dishes with passion moved into the neighbourhood in 2014, and we've been doing it ever since. Their cafe is creating community where the lonely can find friendship and family, but it started as a dream. 2 Thessalonians 1 verse 11 says, "So we keep on praying for you, asking our God to enable you to live a life worthy of his call. May he give you the power to accomplish all the good things your faith prompts you to do." In these verses, Paul prays that God gives the Thessalonians power to accomplish all the good things their faith prompts them to do. And I find this encouraging, as it isn't about us trying to do it in our own strength. Instead, it is the Holy Spirit who brings to mind the dreams that God has laid on our hearts, and we can trust that God will give us the power to accomplish these dreams in partnership with him. So God has made us dreamers. But what are your dreams? And if that's hard to answer, then another way to look at it is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What are you passionate about? What gets you excited? This could be in medicine, cooking, writing, teaching, hospitality. God isn't limited, but can use many ways to bring hope to a community. So I've just got some practical suggestions here. If you're sitting there thinking, but I don't have any dreams, then ask God to reveal to you the dreams he has placed in your heart. Share your dreams. You'll probably find there are others who have the same dream as you, and connect groups are a great place to do this. In the last few months, I've joined a connect group, and I have loved being part of this, building friendships, sharing life with others. It's a perfect place to share your dreams with each other. So the Lost and Found Cafe started when 4 friends shared a similar dream of wanting to build a caring community in their area. Talk to God about your dreams. Ask him to show you the next step. And finally, we can encourage and support each other. You may not have the same dream as someone else, but that doesn't mean you cannot encourage and support them in their dream and you be supported in yours. It isn't necessarily about each of us going out and starting a new project. For some of us, it will be about joining in with what's already going on, like supporting the winter shelter project in January. And so to end, I just want to finish with another quote from the book. The dream of God over your life is not that you become a believer and help out the local church. The dream of God over your life is that you come alive in his presence and bring life to every environment, spilling contagious hope into hurting humanity. You are the light of the world. It is time to let our light shine. The end.
So, hi. Thanks for having me. Nice to be here with you. Put a shirt on. Hope you like it. I just wanted to look nice. Thank you. Oh. Good. Thank you. So, here's a picture of a church a bit like ours. Yeah, little bit prettier. I don't think our city looks quite as nice as this. Actually, I'd prefer to live in the country, but at the moment, I'm here. So I'm actually happy that we can work together and make our city look even better than that, because it's what's inside that counts, isn't it? You know, who lives on the streets? When Jesus lives on the streets, it looks better than architecture. Jesus said, behold, the kingdom of God is at hand. So he's right here. You know, in heaven, on the streets of Southampton, is something that will be and is a beautiful thing. Anyway, I've kind of departed from topic, so I better get back to it. Here is a map of our city. It's the very same that's on the desk over there. When I started, it was blank. It was just all the streets and, you know, very anonymous. I've got some sticky back jewels in a plenty on there. What I'd like you to do, please, it'd be really good, is as you feel you're getting a bit bored or your mind's wandering on to I'm a celebrity later, walk around. If you've got ADHD, this is a perfect opportunity for you. Walk around, get some jewels, stick them on the map where you live, where you work, where you go for coffee, where your children go to school, anywhere you go with some regular opportunity. Might be Tesco's. And then at the end, we can give it to the leaders and they can see, oh, lots of lovely jewels all over the city. That's where our light will be. That's where we've got an influence to bring Jesus. That's where we've got an opportunity to bring dreams and a purpose. So hopefully you'll feel ready to do that. So why don't we start over there and just gradually move across. The table's two-sided, so you can do it on both sides. Very straightforward. Thank you very much. Willing victims, volunteers already. Cool. Right, so part 11, so this is the 11th talk on this, chapter 14 of this book. Okay, you're crazy. This is not Hollywood. It's a voice I've become accustomed to over the years. It's the voice that raises fears and silences dreams. So that's about the first 3 lines of chapter 14. I ask myself, what does the voice you listen to say? What voice do I listen to? What voice drives my decisions? What does the voice do to my hopes and my dreams and the hopes and dreams of those around me? Now I'm asking you the same questions, and this could be question 1 in your Connect group if you like. What voice drives you? What impact does it have in your life? So the next bit, the next 3 lines from the book. I'm not going to go through the whole chapter, don't worry. Nonetheless, he carries on, we continue to stir up dreams in the hearts of people. So we invited dreamers. We confidently declared God was dreaming dreams over the whole of culture. A shift was coming because dreamers were emerging. Stir up, invite, declare, and shift. So what do? We need to be active. If we see a problem, start dreaming up a solution or a condition where that problem no longer exists. God will deliver a strategy. He's already got a plan. Get around people who and places that energize you to grasp and believe in the dreams God has put in your hearts. In the beginning, God prepared, formed, fashioned, and created the heavens and the earth. I'm going ahead a little bit. So this is the declare bit. I was going to use my laptop and do this, but I didn't have the right lead, so Kate's very kindly volunteered. So here we go. So the next one following that. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all their host by the breath of his mouth. So thinking about that, God spoke and the universe came into existence. He is one with Jesus, and Jesus gave that same power and authority to us, that we can speak and things come into existence that aren't already there. And the last part is don't stop until you see it, until you see that shift. Keep going. I've got a nice story for you. Based in the setting of prison education. Thankfully, I was the teacher, not the convict. Particularly, a gentleman was sent down for being found guilty of having a knife with intent to do some harm with it. He didn't have any hope of future employment. He had no hope of being reunited with his son, and he had no hope of a crime-free future. But God had a strategy. I worked for, before that, Southampton Action for Employment, so I was knocking on doors in the inner city communities, tower blocks and everything around Southampton, finding people who weren't in work, chronic lack of self-esteem, chronic low motivation. Maybe no one in their family had ever been in work. It was a generational thing. I knew about an employability program, and that's what I was teaching in prison. And the final part of God's strategy was, ta-da, and again, me. So I was the one who was in prison working with these guys, and God chose to use me. And it was just an incredible blessing. In speaking to these people about what's going on with their lives, what's in their future, I had plenty of opportunity to just realised I was going to time it, so I didn't go too long, but it's way out of the park now, I tell you. I hope you set the video for thingy. So with these guys, it was just an absolutely incredible opportunity to speak words of life, you know, the kind of words that God would speak to us. Particularly for people that maybe they've never had that kind of experience before. And my office was in a reception area where all the prisoners go. And they're sat in all these chairs with a queue of people ready to tell them how discipline happens in the prison, where you go for your drug and alcohol testing, what help you can have to come off drugs. I walked into this setting, and there was a guy sat about there. And he was a big bloke. He looked a little bit mean, and I thought I didn't want to be alone in that room with him, and thankfully there were lots of people there. And he had hate and death and stuff written over his hands. And God picked him out for me and told me that he had the heart of a father, that he loved people, and he wanted to see people helped and delivered from whatever issue they had in their life. And so I talked to him. I said that I was from education and what I did, and I just started speaking these things to him. Blubbering wreck. I don't know how I didn't cry, but blubbering wreck, this guy. And it was just what he needed to start his prison life, because, you know, he'd gone with all the anxiety, ready to kick off. They used to call it getting twisted up. You know, people come and twist you up and throw you down into these cells below. And it sort of, I think, it changed what happened next, you know, and he was more ready to be himself and engage with the positives that happened. But anyway, I was working on this program with this guy, and he got out, he was released a little while later, and actually sent me a letter. And he had managed to find a job. He had been reunited with his family, and he had a future. You know, for him to write a letter and say what had happened was absolutely astounding. But the point is, you know, until that time, he had no hope. Hope was devoid, you know, in his conscience. And all I did was say nice stuff, basically. But God did something to live in those words and change his destination. So back to this. Slide 9. Common sense and conventional wisdom might say no, but the prophetic Spirit of God will say yes. Have you ever heard people cautiously say, well, I could do that, but it'll make no difference? Or, what if it doesn't? You could do that, but what if it doesn't? I say, well, what if it does? Build that sense of expectation, that sense of hope, that sense of something else is going to happen if you do. And I think that opens up opportunities for God to come and live in our actions, live in our words, and our hopes and our dreams. Slide 10. Let's think about kind words. We might not prophesy. We might not believe in it. We might not know we can do it. We might not have that kind of experience yet. But we can all say kind words. We can all say words that carry life and carry opportunity. And we can see the good in people and call it out. And a lot of the people that I meet at school, kids who have failed in every educational setting possible. The next step after my school would be, a secure unit for juveniles. And they've never had anything good said to them. Or if it does, it just goes over the head for some reason. But when you see the good in people, you call it out, you name it, you recognize it, you speak it out, and it starts to live. And, this is where I'm going with my little presentation here, about, having these creative words to say, and about being bold and saying these good things and seeing how they can take root and come to life. So, like the parable of the sower, some of the things we say will just fall on the dry ground, they won't take root. But some things will go through, and they will take root, and they will start to live. But, we'll just carry on. Just keep saying this stuff. Just keep going over it. Don't give up on them. No one's given up on you yet. And it's important not to give up on saying these creative words that God gives to us. And what I would say is, don't be apologetic. My classic way of trying to say an encouraging word from God to people I worked with in the past is, hi, I'm a Christian. I believe God speaks today, and he wants to say something really nice for you. It kind of kills it, really. So just be bold. Say it as it is, or say it as you want it to be. There might be someone who you can't see any quality in, someone who really gets under your skin. Don't settle for that. Tell them what you want them to be like. Anyway, so my will for these people, I believe, will come from the throne of God, come from the very heart of God. He doesn't want them living in the condition that they're currently in and staying in that for the rest of their lives. And I believe that God has given me a heart for people, just like he has for you, and that out of the goodness of your heart, out of the overflow of God's heart, you'll be able to speak these positive things. And speaking positive things really counts. You might know someone who really frustrates you. Maybe they're prone to be snappy or judgmental when they're stressed. Or maybe when they're not stressed. Maybe they're just snappy. There are people who trigger you. Just remember those words. Words of life, words of life, words of life. Because it's very easy not to say words of life and come up short on that kind of thing. Next slide. I chose this little verse from the Passion Translation. It's for Bev. I thought if I include something from the Passion Translation, she might ask me to come up here again because I'm quite enjoying it. So Romans 4:17 from the Passion Translation. God can call things into being that don't even exist yet. And then in the footnotes below, it just puts the context on that passage. The God who creates out of nothing could give children and eventually nations to Abraham and Sarah. Sometimes people are so contrasting to us that there's so much to stop us from getting along. It's all them, it's never me, I'm sure. But when we work with people, we can't get away from them. We're stuck in our office or our place of work for 6, 7, 8, 10 hours a day. And so in those situations, one of us has to change before someone gets triggered into being less than their best self. Either I start liking and accepting their sexist, racist, cruel viewpoint, or they've got to start speaking and thinking like me. So it kind of sounds arrogant, but I don't really think it is. I've been on a journey with God, and he's shaped who I am. He's shaped what I think. He's shaped what I believe. And it would be great for other people who don't know God to also be shaped by him. So I expect people, when I work with them, to be a little bit more like me sometimes. You know, some of my good might rub off on them, but there we are. I'll never get asked back now, but there you go. You've got to think of it as discipleship before they become Christians. Do them a favour, give them a head start for when they are Christians. You know, you've already done the discipleship thing before they enter faith. You know, we're all aware of our call to go into the world and make disciples and introduce people to Jesus. You know, and we often call it evangelism. You know, I want to suggest that evangelism isn't really telling people about Jesus, as I always thought it was. I think evangelism is spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, yeah. Gospel originally referred to the entire Christian message from start to finish, all about Jesus and what he's done and where we're all going. Godspell, Old English word, means good news. It's got its original root in euangelion. Thank you, Google. Yeah, I sound learned. It's an original Greek word, don't you know? I think it's where we get the word gospel from, according to the online dictionary. Perhaps evangelism is the act of sharing the good news of the Christian message. Further than that, I urge you to think of evangelism not as telling good news, but being good news. I am evangelism. Tell that to my wife. Actually, she doesn't mind me too much, so that's all right. Okay, so when someone is relating negatively and you're not enjoying harmonious, fruitful relationships, help them out. As I said before, appeal to their better nature. Address their outbursts gently, you know, as gentle as a dove. Oh, Paul, that's not like you. You're normally so patient, kind, and generous, and forgiving. You know, at work we've got this saying, strike when the iron's cold. No one ever wins when people are really heightened. Wait till everyone's calmed down, then talk about it. So be as gentle as doves, and, you know, there was a situation when I worked, oh, let's go back one. Cheers, other way. So there was a situation where one of my employees was going to kick off, and I thought, how am I going to deal with this? He rang me up, it was 11 o'clock one night. I was watching telly with Ellie, and I just thought, well, I really don't want to deal with this now. And he was going to kick off, and I said to him, I really hope you don't. He said, what? Why? What? And rather than me going, no, you're not, and him going, yes, I am, he kind of, why do you hope not? Well, I've got to do something about it if you do, haven't I? Oh, yeah, okay. You know, and so you kind of come gently, come in from the side, be a bit cunning, be as gentle as a dove. And then at the very least, they're going to stop and think for a minute. You know, if they don't take it on board straight away, you're just going to carry on dropping in those positive, creative words. Who does God say they are? What does God say they're like? You're going to keep on speaking that positive stuff and it will take root. You know, and that's why you got this moment. Because people start thinking, oh, I like what this person says. You know, I feel good when I'm around them. Yeah. And oddly enough, they kind of expect it from you. So it kind of gives you permission to speak into lives. It gives you permission to say good things and see the fruit of God start to grow. And guess what? The more we do this, the more we're going to see people how God sees them. So it's great for us too. We'll respond to them with more confidence. We'll respond with more love. And I mean, this is so much better than how I see people now sometimes. And I think that, you know, I think about the way I react to people that trigger me. The very least benefit will be the individual will encounter a better experience of life, and they'll attribute this positive improvement to something about us. You know, it gives us more opportunity to be good news, to be evangelism for them, and, you know, bring Jesus into their life. I mean, this city is desperate. It's ripe for a touch of heaven. And, you know, we've got people out there who just don't know God. You know, it's not been part of their culture, not been part of their upbringing. And so we need to be the difference. We can be the difference, and actually we are the difference. You know, you be the good news of Jesus, and let's see what God will do as a result of us speaking his truth and life into the lives of people we know. So there's the map. Feel free to stick your things on the map. if you haven't done so already, or take a little look and think, oh yeah, there's lots of places where light can come to the city. And these are the questions that I've left for Connect groups if anybody wants to think about them. Are there any areas of your life where fear raiser and dream silencer directs your decisions? What dreams do you carry? What dreams will you see born if you don't listen to the dream silencer? Who will help energize your dreams? Who will you see with God's eyes, not as you've seen them recently? And what will you speak into existence in the lives of people around you? So that's kind of me, really. That's where I'm at. That song, I Am Who You Say I Am, really stuck with me just now. And actually, it's quite difficult to sing that and be open to being who God says we are sometimes, because sometimes we're just not that. And I really felt actually that, God, who do you say we are? Who do you say we are? And I felt at the time that, there are people here who think, well, do you know what? You say I'm alive, but I feel dead. You say I'm victorious, but I don't feel victorious. And I just wanted to have the opportunity to pray with anybody who might feel they need some more of the life of God in their lives. Because whilst they are Christians and they're doing the routine, there's something not quite there. And there's situations that perhaps are overwhelming. And if you feel that you need some victory, I just want to pray with you on that one. I'll be over there.